The war in Ukraine, already a conflict of immense scale and human cost, has entered a new and unsettling phase. We're witnessing a shift in tactics, a change in the very nature of the battlefield, one defined increasingly by drone warfare. The utilization of unmanned aerial vehicles is no longer a supplementary tactic. It's becoming a central pillar of both offensive and defensive strategies. This week brought a stark illustration of this evolving reality. A Ukrainian drone successfully struck the Kupol electromechanical plant in Izhevsk, a significant blow to Russian military infrastructure. What makes this strike particularly noteworthy is its location. Deep inside Russia, over 1,300 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. This demonstrates a growing capability for long-range precision strikes. The plant itself is vital to Russia's war effort, playing a crucial role in the production and maintenance of key military systems. Specifically, the Kupol electromechanical plant is responsible for producing critical components for air defense systems, as well as contributing to the production of attack drones used in the conflict. Initial reports indicate that the strike resulted in casualties, with 3 confirmed deaths. In addition to the fatalities, 35 individuals were injured in the attack, highlighting the devastating potential of these long-range drone strikes. This successful operation sends a clear and unmistakable message. Ukraine's reach is extending, and its ability to strike deep within Russian territory is growing, challenging previous assumptions about the conflict's boundaries. This attack can be seen as a direct response to Russia's relentless aerial assault on Ukrainian cities and infrastructure, a campaign that has caused widespread destruction and civilian casualties. The scale of Russia's drone offensive is staggering. Reports indicate that there were over 5,400 drone attacks launched against Ukraine in the month of June alone, a relentless barrage from the sky. For Ukrainian civilians, living under the constant threat of aerial bombardment has become a grim reality. The threat from above is ever present, casting a long shadow over daily life. Russia's strategic objective appears clear: to overwhelm Ukraine's defenses and exhaust its resources through sustained aerial attacks. The aim is to break the will of the Ukrainian people and cripple their ability to resist, all through a relentless campaign of aerial bombardment. But Ukraine has demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability in the face of this onslaught. The recent strike on the Kupol plant is a clear indication that Ukraine is not only defending itself, but also actively moving to launch its own long-range strikes, shifting the dynamics of the conflict. The psychological impact of these strikes inside Russia should not be underestimated. The ability of Ukraine to strike deep within Russian territory is sowing anxiety and uncertainty among the Russian population. The perception of vulnerability is growing, with the realization that no region within Russia is truly beyond the reach of Ukrainian attacks. Yet for the people of Ukraine, the nightly reality remains one of air raid sirens, hurried evacuations, and the search for safety in underground shelters. While Ukraine's strike on the Kupol plant represents a significant strategic victory, demonstrating its growing capabilities, it also serves as a stark reminder of just how desperate and technologically advanced this war has become, pushing the boundaries of modern warfare. Both sides are now deeply entrenched in a deadly and escalating cycle of drone attacks, each seeking to gain a decisive advantage over the other. This relentless pursuit of technological superiority is driving innovation and accelerating the development of ever more sophisticated and lethal weapon systems. In this new era of warfare, the sky has undeniably become the new front line, a contested space where drones duel and the fate of the conflict hangs in the balance. As the conflict intensifies and the use of drones becomes more prevalent, the stakes are higher than ever, with potentially far-reaching consequences for the future of warfare. The war in Ukraine is not static. It is constantly evolving, adapting to new technologies and tactics. And with each new development, the danger escalates, pushing the world closer to the brink of an even wider and more devastating conflict. The Ukraine war is now a proving ground for drone warfare. Russia floods the skies with swarms of cheap drones aiming to overwhelm defenses. Ukraine counters with innovation, building interceptor drones and long-range strike UAVs. These new weapons allow Ukraine to hit deep inside Russia, targeting military industry. Drones are cheap and deadly, and change the rules of battle. No one is safe, anywhere. For soldiers, the threat from above is constant. For commanders, it's a new kind of war. The conflict is now a race. Who can build, deploy, and outsmart the other's drones faster? The skies are filled with silent, electronic hunters. The drone arms race is now the main event, shaping the war's outcome. Russia is asserting that it has achieved full control over Ukraine's Luhansk Oblast, a region that has been at the epicenter of conflict for months. This declaration is being presented as a major strategic boast, a significant victory in their ongoing military campaign. If this claim proves to be true, it would mark Russia's first complete capture of an entire Ukrainian region since the start of the full-scale invasion. This would represent a tangible gain for Moscow after facing numerous setbacks. This would be the first territorial gain of this magnitude since the annexation of Crimea in 2014. The Kremlin is strategically using this claim to project an image of strength, resolve, and the seeming inevitability of their objectives in Ukraine. However, Ukraine is rejecting this assertion outright, disputing Russia's claims of complete control. Ukrainian officials are insisting that their forces are still actively engaged in fierce fighting within Luhansk, contesting every meter of ground. For Kiev, the idea of conceding any territory to Russian control is simply unthinkable, a non-starter in any negotiation. This is viewed as a fight for the very survival of the Ukrainian nation, its sovereignty, and its territorial integrity. Russia's stated goal remains the complete capture and control of the entire Donbas region, encompassing both Luhansk and Donetsk. This represents a significant prize for Putin, one that he hopes will justify the immense cost and sacrifices of the war to the Russian people. These claims of victory are as much about bolstering morale and shaping public opinion through propaganda. The claims are about influencing the narrative, as they are about reflecting the actual battlefield reality on the ground. Ukraine's stance on this matter is unequivocally clear and resolute. They maintain that all Russian territorial claims within Ukraine are illegal under international law and will never be recognized by Kiev or the international community. This is a battle being fought for every single inch of Ukrainian land with no compromise on territorial integrity. And Ukraine is demonstrating its unwavering resolve and determination, refusing to yield to Russian pressure. Defiance, not surrender, is the defining characteristic of the Ukrainian spirit in the face of this aggression. This spirit of defiance is what ultimately defines Ukraine's response to the ongoing conflict and its determination to resist Russian occupation. The US has paused some promised weapons shipments to Ukraine, a decision that has reverberated through the halls of power in Kyiv and Washington. This suspension involves critical supplies, including artillery shells and air defense interceptors, resources vital for Ukraine's defense against ongoing Russian aggression. The reasons behind this pause are multifaceted, reflecting a complex interplay of domestic concerns and international obligations. The news is raising alarm in Kyiv, where officials are scrambling to assess the potential impact on their defensive capabilities. The Ukrainian government views this interruption with considerable concern, fearing it could undermine their efforts to repel Russian advances and protect civilian populations. The Pentagon cites dangerously low stockpiles of critical munitions as the primary reason for the temporary halt. Officials have expressed concerns that continued shipments at the current rate could deplete US reserves to levels that would compromise national security. This shortage is not merely a logistical issue, it reflects a broader challenge of maintaining sufficient ammunition reserves while simultaneously supporting a major ally in a protracted conflict. The situation underscores the delicate balance between supporting Ukraine and ensuring the US military's readiness. This move highlights the strain on America's own defense resources after months of massive aid. The scale of assistance provided to Ukraine has been unprecedented, placing significant demands on the US defense industrial base. This has led to increased production, but also to bottlenecks and delays in replenishing US stockpiles. The timing is dire. Ukraine faces its heaviest aerial attacks yet, with Russian forces intensifying their bombardment of key cities and infrastructure. Ukraine needs air defenses urgently to protect its citizens and critical infrastructure from these relentless attacks. The pause in shipments could leave them vulnerable at a crucial moment. The halt, even if temporary, could create vulnerabilities Russia will exploit, potentially shifting the balance of power on the battlefield. Any disruption in the supply of essential weapons could embolden Russian forces and allow them to make further gains. It's a stark reminder: Western support, while vital, is not limitless. The conflict in Ukraine has placed unprecedented demands on Western resources and highlighted the limitations of existing production capacities. The war's scale is outpacing Western production capacity, creating a critical need to accelerate manufacturing and expand defense industrial capabilities. This situation is forcing tough choices in Washington, as policymakers grapple with the competing demands of supporting Ukraine and maintaining US national security. US national security interests are now being weighed more carefully against aid to Ukraine as the long-term implications of the conflict become increasingly apparent. For Ukraine, this is a sobering reality. Alliances are complex and support is not unconditional. The Ukrainian government must navigate these complexities to ensure continued assistance from its allies. The decision adds uncertainty to an already desperate situation, further complicating Ukraine's efforts to defend itself against Russian aggression. Ukraine must now fight, not just on the battlefield, but for continued support from its partners, engaging in intensive diplomatic efforts to secure the resources it needs to survive. The outcome depends as much on Western factories as on Eastern front lines, highlighting the interconnectedness of military and industrial capabilities in modern warfare. The pause signals a need for the West to ramp up production, fast, to meet the growing demands of the conflict and ensure Ukraine has the resources it needs to defend itself. Ukraine's fight is now inextricably tied to the industrial might of its allies, underscoring the importance of a coordinated and sustained effort to support its defense. Facing deadly Russian strikes, Ukraine's military is urgently changing how it protects its troops. General Shyrsky has ordered a ban on large gatherings of soldiers and equipment in exposed areas. Dispersal is now mandatory to avoid mass casualties from precision strikes. New hardened shelters and reinforced dugouts are being built at training centers. The goal: keep soldiers safe, even far from the front. These measures reflect the harsh lessons of modern war. Nowhere is truly safe. Protecting trained personnel is a strategic necessity for Ukraine's survival. The race is on to adapt before more lives are lost. For the first time in nearly 3 years, Putin and Macron spoke directly. The call focused on Ukraine, but revealed just how far apart Russia and the West remain. Putin demanded recognition of Russia's territorial gains, Crimea, Luhansk, Donetsk, and more. Macron firmly rejected this, insisting on Ukraine's full sovereignty and territorial integrity. The conversation produced no breakthrough, just a restatement of irreconcilable positions. For Russia, peace means acceptance of conquest. For France and its allies, it means full withdrawal. The diplomatic gulf is as wide as ever. Dialogue continues, but hope for a negotiated peace is slim. The war grinds on, with no diplomatic off-ramp in sight. At a major NATO summit, allies pledged to boost defense spending to 5% of GDP, a historic shift. The move signals a new era of unity and resolve against Russian aggression. NATO is reinforcing its eastern flank, preparing for a long-term confrontation. But behind closed doors, anxiety is high. Ukraine's military is stretched to the limit. Years of war have exhausted troops and equipment. Ammunition is a constant worry. Intelligence warns Ukraine could reach a breaking point within months. NATO's long-term plans contrast with Ukraine's immediate crisis. The alliance is stronger, but Ukraine's situation is perilous. The summit revealed both unity and deep concern for Ukraine's future. The clock is ticking, and the stakes are enormous. This week's events underscore the war's escalating danger and urgency. Ukraine's deep strike into Russia shows new capabilities, but comes amid relentless Russian attacks. The conflict is now a high-tech, high-stakes struggle with no end in sight. Russia's claim over Luhansk and the US pause in weapons shipments highlight Ukraine's vulnerabilities. NATO's unity is strong, but practical support is under strain. Ukrainian troops face constant threat, even in training. Diplomacy is stalled. The gulf between Russia and the West is unbridgeable for now. Ukraine's resilience is extraordinary, but the pressure is mounting. The coming months will be critical for Ukraine's survival and for Europe's security. The world is watching as Ukraine stands on a knife's edge.